welcome again to the CPTM Smart Partners Hub. Today is 16th of June and it's Friday. So in fact, we started to put together today's communication yesterday. And the reason why, as I explained, was because of the countdown towards the get-together of the central bank governors and their colleagues, my partners, on the 29th and 30th of June. Because one of the major reasons why the governors are exploring in a think tanking mode at the hub the issue of financial inclusion is digital age, digital landscape. And because of that, they are joined by some of the best or well-selected companies. Yesterday we had a very short introduction from Mike Brookbank, formerly IBM, but in the Center for Digital Economy in Sussex currently, making a very short statement about disruption and how to understand this issue of disruption and what is a positive aspect of the disruption, if there is such a thing. But in fact, Oliver from Oram, from the company Chainvine, who actually last year at the think tanking of the governors introduced the issue of distributed ledgers and particularly blockchain technology, but in a way that it was not technical but more oriented towards applications. So that issue, even more than last year, will continue to be on the agenda of the governors alongside other developments, but not the technical side, but the application side. So I was discussing with Oliver last week and this morning about how to probably think of the issues of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and distributed ledger, particularly in relation to central banks.
Yes.
Pain points, you said.
Pain points.
Pain points. So we'll come to that.
Yep.
But if you could...
Thanks, Mahela.
Please.
So, yeah, to everyone who met me last year, I'd like to say hello again. And my name is Oliver, and I'm CEO and co-founder of Chainvine. And we deal in technology. More specifically, we deal in distributed ledger technology, i.e., what you'll probably heard of as blockchain. I've been speaking to Mahela on a wider basis, really, about blockchain, AI, and machine learning. And these are all very much hype words. So what's relevant to you? That's the important thing. Why do you need to know about fintech? Why would you even bother to spend your time on it? Yeah. And so I was speaking to Mahela, and I believe that we should centre on what is critical to every country, not just your countries, but every country in this world. And that's the trade and finance. So trade and finance is essentially the bread and butter for all of us. It's what keeps us going. And I want to look at 4 dimensions of trade and finance, and then I want to just look at the applications of technology here for all of you, and do it on a very, I want to keep it very clear, very simple in many ways, because I believe that there's no need to overcomplicate these very big hype words. So, Mahela, if we look at the first step here, really, what's the first thing we're doing with technology? And it's essentially we're controlling the provenance of a good and we're digitizing it and we're dematerializing that source.
That's right.
Now, if you think about some of the large countries that you need to have provenance on goods that are coming in and out of your country. And if you think of trade and finance in general, the reason why we have all of these fancy technologies and financial instruments is because we want to trade something. But we have to know that what we're trading is valuable, right?
Yes.
And if it's fake, and if it's not the right thing, or even in fact if it doesn't exist, then we've got a problem.
Right.
And then that problem will show up here later. But these days now we can actually use technology to start crunching down the numbers, if you like.
So we are talking provenance, for instance, like you had you're known into application.
So this
so
is
about food, if you can
Yeah, sure. So blockchain could come in here immediately on the provenance, not only of food, but also commodities.
Commodities.
So,
and commodities, we understand.
Could be precious metals, cocoa,
Oil.
wheat, grain, oil. So all of this is applicable, I believe, to each country we're talking to at the moment. And if it's not applicable on exports, it's certainly applicable on imports.
Mm-hmm.
So first, if we have the provenance level, we've solved one problem. Is what we're buying and what we are going to do, in fact, there, and does it exist? And I believe that distributed ledger technology and blockchain technology in itself can offer the best reference data. So I'm going to get to reference data in a minute, but if we put reference data here as step one.
Uh-huh.
So then we're going to move into, once we have the provenance, Mahela, what we want to do is like say, okay, that's fine, but what happens after you've moved it along? Does somebody try and take my goods that I bought out and swap it for something else?
Particular food, for instance,
seeds.
or maybe commodities, yes.
Or even
Cocoa.
seeds. You know, they give you the wrong seeds. They say, hey, you can plant these seeds. And if you think about the smaller land holdings and farmers, they're being sold fake machinery or fake seeds, and this is not good.
So many times hear from our
So we can put the distributed ledger here again. DLT technology comes in there, or BC, blockchain, whichever one you want to call it. But at the same time, we can now begin to use AI. And I believe that artificial intelligence layered across the supply chain on good reference data, we can begin to pick up anomalies. So irregularities, if you like. Just begin to pick up bad stuff going on, or maybe it's not bad going on, or maybe somebody's made a mistake, or maybe there's been an accident. So for instance, maybe you have a perishable good that's moving along the supply chain. It's moving in a refrigerated truck. The truck fridge breaks down. So what do you want to do? You don't want to waste those goods, for example, in supply chain. Why can't you call that truck driver and say, pull in at the nearest market and sell those goods for half price?
Right.
That's one example of where the AI could tell the driver to do something. But if you put this on a wider scale, you know, the AI could say, hold on, you know, the goods are getting taking far too long to get to the destination, and this is going right back down the chain and affecting the small distributor or farmer, and he's not getting paid. So we can make this whole thing much more efficient.
So there is, if you take the Marks and Spencer shelves here with food and flowers from Kenya or from South Africa or from anywhere, probably the very small farmers, they will benefit. And directly. They don't need to know about it.
No.
But if it's built.
But it's like the internet. You don't access the internet, do you? You access applications upon the internet. So this is something that can help the farmers. We work a lot now with using distributed ledger and IoT technology, and that's to have real-time management of a logistical supply chain. But this could also be on very large commodities where you've got a ship that's being sent out, and you can trade that good maybe 3 or 4 times before it gets to its destination. And there has been an experiment already done like that between some of the bigger companies.
Important.
Yeah.
I suppose there are so many Chinese ships going to Dar es Salaam. I was thinking, I will never, because probably something of that nature could take place real time.
There's already been an experiment on this. I can't remember the goods, but the goods were sold 2 or 3 times before the ship reached the port.
Or things, I mean, quite extraordinary.
Well, it's very good, you know, for.
So the beneficiary would be.
And the people get paid sooner in many ways.
And they can be paid quicker. Yeah.
So
okay, so that's another step.
Yeah, and I also believe, and here we have machine learning. So if we think about machine learning and AI, I mean, AIs are mainly at the moment it's programmed by humans to pick up anomalies in data and fraud detection.
Detection.
Absolutely.
Whatever, in payments and whatever it is.
Anything. So, like, if I'm spending, say, I've got a bank card and I usually go between Sweden and London a lot, and suddenly I end up in Brazil one day and I'm taking out an excessive amount of money, or in Washington and I'm taking out a lot of money, and they're like, well, that's very strange. We haven't seen Oliver there at all.
Yes.
And suddenly he wants to use his card there. That's a bit of an anomaly.
Yes, of course.
So you would expect, like, that would be very easily picked up. But it's like when you're surfing on the internet now. If you go to a country or you buy a train ticket, you'll see the website start throwing you adverts specifically around where you are. and
Yeah.
kind of tailored to you. That's what the cookies are sort of feeding back to people.
Yes, yes,
And,
yes, yes, yes.
So the machine learning
Okay,
is
so that's
already
it.
there in
So
many
that
ways.
is the supply chain, the second step. Very good, and the logistics. Okay.
And then what particularly comes to in the central,
More
I'd say,
banking.
banking remit is,
And financial
okay,
sector.
how are we doing with the finance trading? What are our banks under our watch doing? Are they actually following the rules? Are they hedging in a very good way, or are they hedging in a bad way? Are they in fact putting the economy at risk by taking too many loans against
That's
assets,
it.
for example?
Uh-huh.
So the finance and trading usually takes in all banking related features. So once you have these first two natural steps in your economy, this is the one where all technologies will converge for you. And the real difference is massive here, actually, because of even for small, medium-sized traders, if we can begin to reduce what I call the cost of trust in doing business, then you can begin to give them back more money for their goods and their products. And that has, financially, we all know that has a great effect.
Yes, yes, yes,
Because
yes.
if you can give the small guy back more money, then he can spend more money on himself, or maybe he can increase operations,
Yes,
or
yes,
she
yes,
can
yes,
increase
yes.
operations. So I think anything we can do there is good.
So the data, obviously, here
Yeah.
is where a lot of developments are focused at the moment.
Absolutely.
Around the distributed ledgers and all the rest of it came about from within this area. The appetite for
Yes. Yeah.
and all the focus.
So the
Yeah.
banking sector is spending a huge amount on fintech, and the applications within fintech at the moment include distributed ledger, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. Anywhere where you can find efficiencies to bring down the cost of trading and trust, if you like. The cost of business as usual, if you can begin to make that easier, and then you can bring your margins up as well. So the thing is bring the which I'll come to now actually. When we talk about fixing the third problem here, we move on to what the government likes, and that's insurance and government's precisely tax and regulation.
This is another step.
Well, that's the final step really, and
Final
that is
step, yeah.
that is where the
And that
government.
is where central bank governors
Yeah.
might.
Well, I think they're connected from there. to here.
Obviously, they are not divorced from
No.
this, but here is where they are being perceived by everybody else that is there.
Yeah, I think it's a funny perception because the central bank governor probably has to check the books for everything. which
Correct.
do we have? Especially if you think cocoa produce comes from two countries in the world mainly, the world's cocoa produce. So I mean, if you think about those economies, it's massive for them. So
Yes,
of course
of
they need
course.
to know what their farmers are doing there
Or not
because
like
it's key
from
to
a very
the.
small little country or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It makes a huge.
You think of oil in Nigeria; it's huge for them.
Yeah.
And this goes on right through each country. We all, each have their own particular assets that they want to protect. But
A bit more about this.
so the insurance and governance. Well, once you have this set of data, in essence, government and regulators can begin to see that, hold on, this is actually not a bad system. We can actually have provenance right through down to quality, down to secure and trusted trading. And this, then they can begin to say to other countries, look, our system is very good actually. When we are asking you for a loan, or we need to recapitalize and we want to go to the international markets to get money, we base all of our infrastructure on solid data, and we even got very good technology to show you our future books and how they outlook. And in terms of insurance, you can think about it. If you're moving goods anywhere here or money, and you have the proper data, and you're almost 99% certain, because that's not say 100% because of humans are involved. So it's always 99. Yes, so we're the problem there, I think.
Yeah.
But the insurance industries
Yeah,
are very
because-
interested in this already because
Yeah.
if they can save a massive amount of money.
Yeah.
And if the insurance is interested, then the government will be interested because obviously this comes then down to key policy and decision-making requirements that come from government, which is tax and regulation. But for me, I believe this is the natural 4 steps of trade and finance, but it's also critical infrastructure management.
Okay, so were we to sort of say to central banks, the governors in particularly, who were inducted into, particularly they are coming from the financial inclusion to do
Yes.
their, to implement their mission. If we were to ask them about applications which are integrated, so it is not that there is one particular step more related to distributed ledger than AI or machine learning.
That's right.
They all come in.
They could all be joined,
They could be joined.
There are certain
yes.
spaces within all of this where there can be tests.
Okay.
So I believe that.
And the security which is associated with them being also tempted to have these applications, that probably goes at all steps.
Yeah, I mean, it's
the security side of
the security side is brilliant for them.
But we say we don't mention cyber because
it's another hype word, a bit like blockchain. Yeah. But I believe through having a very solid, like Gartner referred to data in 2012 as new gold.
Yes.
So what we're doing is we're saying to the governors, actually, look, your data is gold, and if you use it and manage your data properly, it will have very good consequences for your business people in your countries being able to actually go out there on the open market and get better loans for less interest, and actually being able to do business with their peers in Europe or in America at a reduced cost of trust. Which when I mean by that is like the cost of doing business sometimes is simply too high because of the regulations and requirements put on companies and people wanting to do business.
Okay, so your question would be to them. You put that question.
Well, I'd like to. My question for the governors would be: this, in my opinion, this is important, but I would also like your opinion about what are your main pain points. What are the huge pain points for the central banks in terms of where do you see the problems, not only in the economy per se, but really in how your central banks do business with other central banks and how the central banks help their banks do business with banks outside of their own countries. It would be very interesting to hear those pain points because I believe that there are a lot of answers within distributed ledger, artificial intelligence and machine learning, all of those buzzwords, but there are technical answers to some of the pain points, but until we know really all of your pain points and we can start to address them, then we can't dig really deep down. But that's what I would like to know.
Yeah. And just a final thing was, besides the security, I wanted to ask you, of course, this will enable also to materialize the preoccupation they have with this adaptive flexibility, because without this type of steps makes it immediately makes a case for the need for adaptive flexibility to all sorts of things that are taking place into an economic system, into a country. So for the banks, the central banks particularly, to be able to take on board the sudden developments or sudden changes without these interventions. So, well, I mean, we will be doing probably some kind of follow-up, particularly related to the trade, Ministers of Trade and Finance. We try to marry the trade and finance. In addition to, obviously, AI and all these things, the governors need to be assured that there are standards coming up or on
their way at least.
On their way.
There is existing governance frameworks that we have. I mean, if we think about technology such as these, it's enabling us to do a better job. But we still have property rights. That's a basic thing in law. So, I mean, all of it, we do have our own courts where we can address things, where we can say, actually, no, I've been tricked here. I would like that back. So what does this data do in those questions? Like, okay, I've been sold the wrong goods, and that's not fair. Then we can say, look, I have proof of this, and the proof is quite good. And then the AI has told me that it's definitely this person who did it. The machine learning then will tell me next time not to do business there, hopefully.
This is as simple as that. I mean, that's a very, very good, simple description of what it's all about, actually.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do.
In the principle, yes.
It doesn't need to be over-technical or difficult.
No. So you would think that there is no difference between the environments which are industrializing or developing now and those which are very mature. These things would apply in either.
Yeah, they can go across the board. Obviously,
Yeah.
I believe in some of the countries that are more still developing, these could allow them to move quicker and faster.
This is.
Yeah.
This is.
And catch
Thank
up,
you,
much
Oliver.
like the banking.
I mean, that is very, very good indeed.
You're welcome.
And catch up.
Great.
Very good.
Thank
Very
you.
good indeed.
Thanks, Dr. Mayer.
Okay.